Hello, everyone. Pam DuBois, doing Real Estate TV today, and always super excited to have with me Mr. Mortgage himself, Mark Eitel, and we're going to talk about real estate, you guys, interest rates, and so much more. And Mark, thank you so much for being with me. I'm always grateful to have you, for you taking your time out to spend with us and share about what's going on in your world with the interest rates right now. What are you seeing?
Well, first, let me say thank you. I always enjoy our time together. You are
Thank you.
always positive, and you always are finding the opportunity in the market. And right now, today, we know how many people are out there doom and glooming this market. And I'm super excited because there's still a ton of opportunity out there. And that's one of the things that I think our personalities fit really well together, and why I always enjoy our time is because of that. There's still a lot of reason to be positive about things.
Absolutely. Always.
Yeah. So
Always.
market wise, it was no surprise this summer, and that's about the last time I think I was on your show. We saw rates, race up to the low sevens, and everybody they were super scared.
Yeah.
And it was I think the rate of acceleration that caught everybody off guard. And then everybody started to adjust. Well, now rates have pulled back into the sixes. And I think it feels like a bit of reprieve for people. And that run up in the summer also caught the attention of sellers that, okay, now we may need to negotiate. We may need to offer concessions or help buy the rate down.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, I think we saw a mindset shift in the market where buyers now have the opportunity to negotiate a bit again, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Sellers are now suddenly willing to do it, as they always have been, except for this pandemic period. So we're seeing a lot of wins in the market with a seller contribution buying the rate down. And now us being back in the sixes, we're seeing those rates, permanent rate buy downs in the fives. But the 3-2-1 buy down strategy, which is all the buzz right now, has a start rate in the threes. And because of that, I think people are seeing the opportunity in the market. And supply and demand are still dictating prices. And while we're seeing appreciation slow, we haven't seen depreciation across the board. We're seeing prices slip in a few markets, but overall, we're seeing prices being supported, which I think now that we've been through that kind of bump in the rate and a little bit of pullback, and people are realizing that, higher interest rates doesn't equate to lower prices. And they're realizing, okay, we need to make some moves. Maybe it's a rate buy down. Maybe it's becoming a bit more creative. And we're seeing that activity in the market again. So it's encouraging.
It is encouraging. And there's always, something positive. I mean, real estate is always a great investment.
No question.
Always a great investment, no matter what market we're in, right?
And we talked about that last time. I mean, we both have been in the market long enough to know clients that we can, pick up the phone and talk to, that bought prior to the peak of the bubble and then owned their real estate all the way through the crash that everybody talks about, and then still own it today and have a ton of equity. Right. And it was a good move. And I think fundamentally, we need to disconnect a little bit the mindset of appreciation is the only success story in real estate, because you build equity by paying your principal down each month also. Right. And real estate over time is always going to appreciate. There's going to be little downturns here and there, but you're paying a mortgage anyway, guys. It's either your landlord's or it's yours. So as long as and Pam, you and I were talking about this before we jumped on the air, as long as you're focusing on your budget, right? Not the interest rate, not the sales price, but look at your budget and then look at properties, the best property that you can buy for that budget. If you're a buyer out there and that's your strategy, you're in good shape. And of course, that number will change a little bit. When interest rates were much lower, you could buy more for that same budget amount. But the sales price and the interest rate, that's not the relevant number in the transaction. It's the budget. Right. And I find it so interesting that the only thing that we purchase in life that we get hung up about interest rate is housing, because
It's
the news is
housing.
shoving rate down our throat. But I ask people what your car payment is, and they tell me to the penny, it's $631.52. And then I ask them what interest rate they have on their car loan, and they have no idea, because that's not what drove that decision. It was the budget.
Right.
And, people will go out and spend thousands of dollars for a wonderful weekend, and they'll put it on their 24 or 26% interest rate credit card and think nothing of it because they had a wonderful experience. But as soon as CNBC flashes across the computer screen that rates are in the high sixes, they say, oh, no, 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 buying a house is a bad idea. Meanwhile, they're paying their landlord each month, and once a year he knocks on the door to tell you now have the privilege of paying him more. It's that mindset shift, and I find it fascinating. And I think once we have those conversations and look at the fundamentals and realize that, yes, real estate can be treated as an investment, but that's by investors. We first need to realize it's the place in which we're going to raise our family. We're going to create memories. And it's an expense we can't do without, because it's rent or mortgage. It's not, unless you're in your mom's basement, you don't have a free ride.
Right.
Once people make that shift, I think they realize the value of owning real estate, not to mention the tax write-offs. You pay less income tax, even if all of the math is the same. Your mortgage payment and your rent are the same. At the end of the day, you're going to pay less income tax because of the benefits of owning real estate from a standpoint of
right. And I think that's one thing that you brought up. You're fading out a little bit off and on with the volume, but great point as far as the tax write-off, because a lot of people don't think about that. They think about, you don't have that when you're paying rent, right? Your rental, that's going down the drain basically to your landlord.
Yeah, he has all the write-offs.
Yeah, he gets the write-off. And looking at the news, and it's all about doom and gloom. So, and the interest rates went up again. Think about that. They actually say it with that like mode to just make you scared.
Right. It's sad because I remember when the news was simple. The newscaster came on and they said, this is what happened today. This is who was affected. The weather is this. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then suddenly there was a 24-hour news cycle, and they're competing for our attention.
Yeah.
So it's like the crazy TikTok video or Dr. Pimple Popper or the chiropractor that you're scrolling by and you see this and you want to look away, but it's grabbed your attention.
Yeah.
I really feel like that's what the news is now. They're competing for our attention, and what gets our attention but the big scary headlines, whatever it is. And when it comes to housing, it's, we've been talking about it for the last couple of years. Everybody's saying the bubble's going to burst. This is worse than 2005.
Yeah.
But the fundamentals aren't lining up for that. But if they say it long enough, maybe they'll be right one day. But I find it fascinating.
Yeah, that's kind of what they're going for too. I mean, there's just so much negativity out there that it's just, I just checked my phone really quick. That people just, it's like drama, making that negative drama so they can get people's attention and maybe get more views or whatever. It's what it's all about.
That's why we watch Real Housewives or The Bachelor or whatever the show is, because you're looking for those crazy story plots that are filled with drama. And I think we've become so conditioned to react to that.
Yeah.
News they're up to the same game. And it's really up to us to just present the data. And it's interesting because, as you know, I'm in Florida and we have hurricanes, and the weatherman never comes on during the hurricane and apologize for the storm or predict how many people are going to die. They just tell us this is what's happening and this is how you prepare for it. And I really feel like the real estate practitioner and the mortgage practitioner who are successful, they take that same approach. I don't dictate any of that, but I can show you how to win in almost any environment. And with that mindset, I really think we're seeing the cream rise to the top, if you will, in the industry, which is good, because right now the people people that have those experience to move through those nuanced negotiations, buying the rate down, and all of that stuff is foreign to somebody who hasn't been in the business more than a few years. So, and it's interesting. You're a big proponent of teaching. And I think as we come together as a community and share what's working in the strategies, we're only making all of us better. So I didn't mean to alienate anybody that doesn't have that experience, because resources like your show and all of the platforms that we exist together on are all designed to share that information to make everybody better.
Right, right. And I think education, exactly like you say, education is so important right now, because they really do need to actually get that out there. It's like buy down. What is a buy down?
Yeah.
Right? You know, a lot of people have probably never heard of that before, didn't even know they can do it. And it makes more sense to actually, if you could afford it, to buy it down and buy that property.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have that property, you're going to have the write-offs. Basically, it's an investment. It only makes sense. That was a great point. Yeah.
And you know what's interesting about the buy down? So people come to me all the time, and we'll use very round numbers for conversation today, but they have a $400,000 property that they're looking at, and the seller will take $385,000. So the logic dictates, I want to pay as little as possible, so let's write the contract at $385,000. But writing the contract at $400,000 with a $15,000 seller concession or contribution, depending on what terminology you're comfortable with, applied towards buying the rate down, will move the needle for the monthly payment far more with a rate buy down than it will by reducing the purchase price $15,000. I mean, it's significant moving the rate one full percentage point, let alone the 3-2-1 buy down, because that moves back to the rate of the day.
Yeah.
But a permanent rate buy down, if you look at a $400,000 purchase versus a $385,000 and the rates associated with those two strategies, it's a no-brainer. And I think having these conversations and getting people's mind around it, as long as the property is still appraising, right? So the value's there, it's worth $400,000. There's no downside to paying $400,000 for it because the value's there. But now you've reduced your payment and your interest rate significantly. And to play that example out for, to the end, if the rate was 6.25 today or 6.5, I don't, whatever, let's pick a round number, 6.5, and you were able to buy it down to 5.5, that's significant in the monthly payment. But also, if rates continue to go up, wow, what a huge win, because you've put that much distance between your rate and where we're going.
Right.
And if rates go back down, they've got to move all the way past 6.5, past 5.5, before it ever makes a lot of sense to do a rate and term refi. So when people ask me, if I do that, what happens if rates go up? Hey, you've won. For sure, it's a win. What happens if rates go down? And then you talk about how far they would have to move from where they are now before you see the benefit. They realize, wow, I'm really setting myself up for long-term success with this strategy. So I like that conversation for people, just to, yes, the headlines are scary, but let's look at the real data, and to play that hurricane analogy out, because I know you have Florida roots too.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen the weatherman and the camera shot is close, cut in on him, and he's up to his waist in water.
Yeah.
And then the camera pulls back and he's standing in the swale on the side of the road. He's not really, it hasn't flooded the whole city, but for that camera shot, they're making it as dramatic as
I know.
That's kind of the rate thing, right? It's like, oh my God, doom and gloom. And you pull back the camera and you look at all of the data. And you say, wait a minute, it's really not as scary as that guy up to his waist in the water looked like. So
yeah, it's not at all. It's not at all. And it's unfortunate that they actually make it out to be that way.
Crazy.
Home ownership is, why? How can you go wrong unless it's like, you buy it at the wrong time and you sell it at the wrong time. You have to actually hold on to it. You're ready. You're going to be living in the property for 3 to 5 years or whatever, however long. If someone came to me and said, well, I'm going to buy it now and maybe in 6 months down the road, I'm going to sell. Well, no, then definitely don't buy now, because
Right.
that's, that's not, you're not going to get your money's worth. You're not going to get the equity, and closing costs and all those things. But if you're going to live in the property for, a couple years or whatever.
Or if you
And
have
then-
to move in 6 months for a job transfer, rent it, because we all
Right.
see what's happening in the rental market.
And that's a very good point. I love that. That's a great point, because you can actually rent it and build up an equity.
Let somebody else build the equity for you. That's
Right.
one thing a lot of people overlook about real estate. It's the only asset that we can buy. Well, I say that, but you can leverage your stock portfolio. So with exception, but as a rule of thumb for the average person, you put as little as 3% down. I mean, we even have some 100% loan programs for first-time buyers. So you can put no money down. So you completely leverage the purchase of the asset, but you benefit from all of the appreciation.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing opportunity to provide yourself access to building equity with someone else's money. And if you play out that strategy of buy a home, live there for a little while, maybe you refinance it, take some money out, go buy another property or
Right.
a rental property with that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're taking leverage and you're compounding that leverage and making other strategic moves with it. Don't pull the equity out and go buy a shiny car.
Yeah.
Pull that equity out and continue to parlay it into other assets that you can leverage that will appreciate over time, that someone else will pay for, which is,
Right.
I think, the brilliance in that strategy. So I talk to people all the time, and you can see the difference in their net worth. You can
Mhm.
tell who got started early.
Yeah.
Buying that first home at 25 versus 40 makes a huge difference when you're 60, because of all of that accumulation of equity over time. So I don't know. I geek out on this, so I apologize if I'm
No,
going
you're a
off in
wealth of
funny
knowledge.
trail.
You're a wealth of knowledge, always a wealth of knowledge. And what a great point to bring up, as we're talking about buying down. Nobody talks about that. That is like huge, right? So giving the education, if you're going to talk on the news, be on the news, talk about, scaring buyers out about buying property, the interest rate is so high, then you know what? Some of these newscasters, they probably don't even know what a buy down is.
Right? They don't.
You know?
How many people have you talked to that said that just in casual conversation? What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm in real estate. I'm in finance. Oh man, I heard the rates are bad. And
Yeah.
I always like to engage that conversation. Well, what are the rates? Oh, I don't know. I heard they're 10%. 8%.
Right.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
did you know that they're really, 6.5, and some very easy strategies can move that into the fives? And
Yeah.
historically, a rate into fives or sixes is a good rate. And you realize that if we only are digesting the headlines, we really don't know what we're talking about. It's
Right.
it's like being at the dinner party and you overhear half the conversation that, so and so took his secretary to Cancun. And then you whisper over here, well, Jack's having an affair with his secretary and they're in Cancun right now. And by the time that whisper gets all the way around the table, Jack and his secretary are in Cancun getting married. Well, he took his secretary to Cancun for a conference. And, it's just, we don't know the entire facts. And it's just
Right.
interesting how I think in our world, the headlines and all of the news stories that scare people kind of do that. And it's interesting to me because fundamentally we have to have housing. We're
Yeah.
making some sort of payment. So it's not like buying a house creates a new debt for you. You're replacing rent with a mortgage.
Right.
Ideally, that math would be the same. You're not, spending way more to go buy a house. But it's interesting to me how fundamentally people don't have the entire story necessary to make that really, really key decision in their life. And it's too easy to get discouraged,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I've been promising myself I'm going to get back in the gym for like the last 5 years. And, you wake up and you're half asleep and I don't really want to do it today. And then you hear the news report, there's a traffic jam on 95. Oh, well, I can't even make it to the gym today. I'm not going to go. And I never even listened to the whole news story. Is the
Right.
traffic jam even between me and the gym? I don't know, but I heard enough for me to make the excuse not to do something. And I
Yeah.
find that as humans, we do that to ourselves a lot. So,
That's
anyway,
that's so true. We can talk ourselves into things and we can talk ourselves out of things that easily.
yes.
Mindset, it's just so easy for us to do that. But yeah, I'm a big gym person, so
Are you? That's good.
Yeah, I love the gym. So
I'm going to stay seated so you can't see my non-gym belly that I'm creating during the holiday season, but I'll work it off next year.
Yeah, January 1st, January.
Me and everybody else will barge in there. You guys
Yeah.
probably hate to see us come in with our brand new workout outfits from Christmas, and you've been there the whole time.
Well, the gym is already getting crowded. I think people are actually already starting to, like, the way I think about it is like, the more I work out, the more I can eat.
There you go. That's a fair trade, right?
If I don't work out, then I can't eat. So I'm going to have to keep up with that part of it. So, but I do. I turned 60 this month, and I'm sitting there going, everybody's like, 60. Oh my gosh, that's a big number. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? It doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me because it's just a number and it's just a mindset too.
You know what, Pam? Think of that the same way we just described interest rates. It does.
Yeah.
The number really doesn't matter, because
Yeah.
you can see a 60-year-old that walks like he's 80, or she walks like she's 80. And you can see a 60-year-old that looks 40.
Yeah.
It's all perspective and how that works for you. So
Right.
I just jumped in my head.
Yeah, I know. And so, yeah, as you guys, as you're thinking about buying a home, think about what your goals are, what your priorities are. Why would you be buying a home? Are you, don't let the interest rate deter you from investing in real estate. And real estate is, again, we could beat until it's like, basically, it's one of the best investments that there is out there.
Really invest in yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because
and you're literally
that's the thing. You're changing your future.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you really said something powerful there, because it's truly an investment in yourself, because it's like anything else. It's the compound effect. So the earlier that we start, and you don't have to go out there and be a real estate investor and a big tycoon, but buying a house that's worth $200,000 and owning until it's worth $400,000, it costs you no extra money monthly,
right,
than a normal renting an apartment. It probably saved you money over time.
Yeah.
You didn't have to cut out your Starbucks. You didn't have to Dave Ramsey your way to that $200,000 in wealth, and you've paid down principal. So really, you've lived in that home for whatever period of time that it took it to double in value. And now you've got what, $200,000-$300,000 in your pocket, tax free if it's your homestead and you're married. In Florida, it's $250,000 for a single person,
Yeah.
$500,000 of gains tax free. That's free money, guys.
Yeah.
Really
Totally.
investing in your future. And you can take that equity along the way and put your child through college or pay for medical expenses. Or, being in the business as long as I have, I've seen almost every scenario where that equity saved somebody's day.
Yeah.
They either took the equity and found another opportunity for it, or they paid off medical expenses, or got themselves out of debt, whatever it is. But that wasn't their savings that did that. That was the house building that equity for them. I just think, we live in a time where kids are way smarter than we ever were at their age. And if they treated this like any other hack, right? Like during the pandemic, they were all buying crypto. And I became fascinated with it. And the people I learned crypto from were half my age, because they understood it. That was their world. But if they treated this like crypto, where a small investment up front and over time, a significant impact on their bottom line, and they had to do nothing for it other than make that monthly payment that they're doing anyway, I think they would get excited about that. So I just find all of that fascinating. If we can, look at it through the lens of opportunity, not the lens of, CNBC or whatever headline just scared us. And then this just jumped in my mind. We'll buy crypto at, $20,000, and now it's at 17. And then we'll tell ourselves, I believe in it so much, I'm going to buy more of it at 17. and cost average myself down. But with real estate, as soon as the headlines tell us it's going down, oh, no. I don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
Why any other investment, we justify a downturn to buy more and call it cost averaging. In real estate, the news tells us, oh my God, the bubble is bursting and everybody runs. Well, really? If you use that same investment logic, it's an opportunity to cost average down. I don't know.
Yeah. And you know what, that actually shows ignorance. It really does show ignorance when they start talking about the bubble bursting in real estate. It's like, come on, guys, where's the positive in this? How much do you actually know about real estate to actually talk about a bubble bursting? What are the positives of owning real estate? And that's where the ignorance come in, I think, because they're definitely ignorant about real estate as an investment, or else they wouldn't be saying that.
Right. You know what's fascinating is I watched the Brookings Institute interview with Federal Reserve Chair Powell. That was I think it was November 30th, and they released the video of that. And to anybody other than me, that's like an eye glazing over, boring hour and a half of their life. But I'm sitting there taking notes, excited about it. And he goes through the whole presentation and gets to the Q&A. And the last question, the very last question of the session, just kind of touched a little tiny bit on real estate. And he answered the meat of the question. And then he got to the real estate component. He said, listen, the low interest rates created, his words, a bubble. And by bubble, he's talking about a near vertical appreciation cycle. He said nobody thought that was sustainable. And we've got to work through that. And we're seeing the market level. We're seeing, pricing adjusting on a annualized appreciation level, and it's slowing a little bit. But he said this, which I think is key. This isn't me. I mean, even though I've been saying this for years, he said it in the Brookings Institute interview. He said, fundamentally in this country, we still have an imbalance of supply and demand. And the cost and the red tape and the protocol for a builder to get permits, zoning, acquire land, to build new units is not only expensive, but it's time prohibitive. New units aren't coming to the market like that. So he said, because of that, he sees the fundamental imbalance in supply and demand. Now, that was a tiny bit of a long answer, and it was not specific to, hey, Fed Powell, what's going to happen in home prices. But if you listen to that answer, supply and demand is the only equation that controls prices. The cost of money has nothing to do with the cost of the property. What the cost of money does is slow demand.
Yeah.
Fewer people can buy when rates are here than when they're here. But until there's more supply than demand, prices have to at least remain flat. They can't go down until we're oversupplied. And I was explaining that to somebody this week on my radio show. And I use this analogy, and I don't know if it makes sense or not, but if you go into a store and you pick an item off the shelf, and that item's $75, $80, that's $75. And you've got three methods of payment in your pocket. You've got cash, which you don't have to pay any interest on it.
Okay.
You've got an Amex, which you pay very little because you typically pay an annual fee. Or you've got a Visa, which you may pay 14, 18, 20, 24% interest. You take that item up to the register. That cashier doesn't care which method of payment you're using.
Right.
And my point in that is the high interest rate Visa card, if you pay with that, it's $80. If you pay with cash, or 75, whatever I said, if you pay with cash, it's the same price, because the cost of the capital does not dictate the value of the asset. Now, if people only have their credit cards left, they have no more cash, this is the only way they can pay for it, and they decide not to buy it, and then the store becomes overstocked on that item, then they'll put it on sale. But the cost of capital, when you're making that purchase, the cashier doesn't care what your method of payment and the underlying cost of that capital is. There's a value associated with that product because of demand.
Yeah.
And because of that, we need to take that same model and think about real estate. Until interest rates get to a point where nobody wants to buy and we're oversupplied, if we reach that point, then we'll see prices go down. But what will likely happen at that point is we'll see institutional investors come in and buy real estate at, even a discount and turn them into rental properties, because that's a long-term benefit to them because they see where rents are.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't mean to turn it into that, but it just dawned on me.
No,
that's kind of an interesting way to look at it, because we make that decision every day when we reach into our wallets or our purses.
Right.
We never get a discount for paying cash in most instances, unless you go to the store around the corner from my house. Sometimes they'll give you a discount for cash.
That's funny. Yeah, that's a great analogy. I like that. And if people actually would think about that, you are a wealth of knowledge.
Well,
amazing. A wealth of
you bring
knowledge.
it out in me.
No, well, thank you. But yeah, I always love having you on and talking. And I really, really like the fact that you brought up the buy down point today, which is, such, you ask, if you go and ask your typical realtor out there what a buy down is, they may not be able to tell you. What is a buy down? So
here's what I'll do for you, Pam, if you're open to it. If anybody wants it, I have a buy down calculator, it's an Excel spreadsheet. You can plug in all your own numbers, and you can right in front of you, agents, buyers, other mortgage professionals. If you want it, I'll send it to you, or they can email me a request. I don't care. I'm happy to share it, but it shows you a permanent rate buy down, a 2-1, a 3-2-1, and there's a new buy down, the 1-1. But you can plug in all the numbers for yourself and see, okay, if I'm going to make an offer on this property, or if you're an agent representing a buyer or a seller, and you want to see the impact on what a buy down will do, I'm happy to share that tool. And it's a simple Excel spreadsheet. You can fill in the blanks yourself.
That's awesome. That would be great. I think I'm going to do a poll on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And just put on there, how many people, and I'll just put interest rates, how many people know what a buy down is, and see
how it works.
Yeah.
How it works. Because I'll give you a very quick overview, because the permanent rate buy down is a one-time upfront fee that the lender charges to buy the rate down. So it's essentially like prepaid interest.
Yeah.
So, and depending on the day and the rate sheet and the market environment, you might pay on a $300,000 loan, you might pay $9,000. So a 3% fee to buy the rate down a full percentage point. And everybody can do that math. There's tons of mortgage calculators out there where you can put 6 1/4 in and 5 1/4 and see what that savings is. With the step up buy downs, which is the 3-2-1, 2-1, that essentially is the contribution, typically from the seller, is a subsidy. So they take that money, they put it in an escrow account, and they charge you a payment based on 3.5%. And then whatever that difference is between 3.5 and 6.5, they pull that out of the escrow account. So it's not a true buy down. It's more like a payment subsidy. Now, what's really cool about that is that's your money, right? You're still getting the full benefit of the write-off of a 6.5 or 6.25% loan. And one other cool thing about that is, if you sell the property or you refinance the property in that first 3 years, that's your money. They'll reduce your principal by that amount that's in your buy down escrow. So it's really interesting. And that's the part that a lot of people don't understand. Mechanically, it still works the same. There's a fee, and then it lowers the rate. But because it's not a permanent rate buy down, it's really like a payment subsidy. And if anybody wants to deep dive that, I don't want to waste your time with it, but if you ever want to deep dive that, we can walk through all of the pros and cons of it, and who and how it benefits, because it's truly unique. Because if you take the one-time buy down, right, and then you go sell the house in a year, you don't get any of that money back. But if you do the 3-2-1 buy down, you start with the super low payment, and you haven't used all of that escrow subsidy, and you sell the property or refinance it, you're reducing the principal by that balance. So it's a pretty interesting piece of it that a lot of people don't really understand, but it's a really powerful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. We'll have to do I'm going to get this video out there so people can understand this buy down, because I think that's very important right now for people to learn about and get educated about and know that that's available for buy. You know, they
Yep.
probably have no idea. Have no
No,
idea.
it's so foreign to people because for
Yeah.
a long time it wasn't available. When I got started back in the late 90s, this was a thing. And
Yeah.
then we've been in such a low interest rate environment for such a long period of time that
Yeah.
it hasn't been requested or required. And
Yeah.
when we went from 3 to 7, all of a sudden it became a buzzword again. And
Yeah.
it's really a powerful tool. I'll shoot you a link to the radio show where we deep dive that also. And you can
Okay.
hear that if you'd like.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today, Mark.
Yeah.
Share your information with us. How does one get in
Pam.
touch with Mr. Mortgage himself?
I always enjoy doing it with you. I appreciate
Oh, thank you. You're the best. You're the best. And if I ever come to West Palm Beach, I'm coming to look you up.
Come on, let's do it. Let's do
I
it.
would love it. I would love it, especially now since it's getting cold. I'm like ready
Yeah,
to
you don't need much of an excuse to come down here, especially this time of year.
Yeah, I love Florida and I love West Palm Beach more so. But thank you again, Mark. And you guys, Mr. Mortgage, he's Mr. Mortgage on Instagram also, right?
Yep. Instagram, TikTok, even though I don't know how to dance on TikTok yet, Clubhouse, and then MrMortgageRadio.com. We put everything in one place. We built a link tree. There's links to the radio station. A lot of good data in the Facebook page. We created a Facebook page for the radio show.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm deep diving all this data, I take the data sets that we're using and post them there. And you can share the post or screenshot it if you want to use it in your own social channels. A lot of good charts. But if you go to MrMortgageRadio.com, everything's there.
Cool. Awesome. You guys, that's how you get in touch with the wonderful Mark. I tell you guys, Mr. Mortgage himself. Thank you guys for being with us, everyone. We're always grateful, always excited and blessed that you're here with us. And stay safe, be blessed, everyone. And we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.